Imagine two apartments sitting on the same street. They're in the same neighborhood. The monthly rent is almost identical. From the outside, there's no obvious clue that the people living inside are on completely different financial paths. Walk into the first apartment, its owner earns $95,000 a year. Everything about the place suggests success. A 75-inch television dominates the living room wall. A $4,000 leather sectional stretches across the lounge. The kitchen is filled with expensive appliances, some still untouched in their original packaging. Closets overflow with clothes, many still carrying their tags months after being bought. The spare bedroom disappeared long ago. Today, it's little more than storage for things that once felt essential but are now almost forgotten. To almost anyone looking in, this person appears financially comfortable, but appearances tell only part of the story. Every time they check their bank balance, a familiar feeling returns: anxiety. They're only two missed paychecks away from serious financial trouble. Now, step across the hallway. The second apartment belongs to someone earning just $52,000 a year. Nothing inside looks particularly expensive. The television is modest, the furniture is simple, the kitchen contains only the tools that actually get used. The wardrobe isn't overflowing because nearly everything inside gets worn regularly. The spare bedroom is exactly what it was designed to be, a bedroom. Yet, this person sleeps far better at night. They've saved enough to cover 18 months of living expenses. Every payday, 20% of the income disappears automatically into an investment before they even have the opportunity to spend it. One earns almost twice as much. The other has built dramatically greater financial security. How is that possible? Most people would immediately point to investing, or budgeting, or income, but none of those explain what's happening here. The real answer is hidden, somewhere almost nobody thinks to look. It's hidden inside the things we own, because every possession has a cost, not just once, forever. Most people believe buying something is a single transaction. You pay, you take it home, the story ends. In reality, that's where the story begins. Every purchase carries two separate price tags. The first is obvious. It's printed on the receipt. The second one rarely gets calculated at all. Storage, maintenance, cleaning, insurance, repairs, mental attention, opportunity cost. Those expenses don't arrive together. They quietly drip into your life month after month, year after year, until ownership costs far more than the original purchase ever did. Take something as ordinary as a treadmill. Buying it feels responsible. You're investing in your health. But once it's inside your home, it immediately begins charging rent. A treadmill typically occupies around 20 square feet when you account for the clearance space needed to use it safely. In many urban areas, living spaces effectively cost somewhere between $30 and $50 per square foot every year. That means your treadmill quietly consumes between $600 and $1,000 worth of living space annually. And for many households, it spends far more time holding laundry than helping anyone exercise. Now, imagine something much larger. A $30,000 boat. Most people see a one-time purchase. The reality is very different. Registration, insurance, cleaning, motorization, maintenance, unexpected repairs. Across the boating industry, a widely accepted rule suggests annual ownership costs average roughly 30% of the boat's value. That means a $30,000 boat often requires another $3,000 every single year, simply to remain yours. Whether you sail every weekend or hardly ever untie it from the dock, but money isn't the only thing your possessions demand. They ask for your attention too. Every object you own wants something. It needs organizing, cleaning, protecting, remembering, eventually repairing, eventually replacing, eventually throwing away. One item barely matters. 500 do. Researchers have repeatedly found that excessive visual clutter raises cholesterol, the body's primary stress hormone, while reducing our ability to focus. In other words, your possessions don't just occupy your home, they occupy your mind. Then comes the cost almost nobody notices: opportunity cost. Imagine spending $15,000 building the perfect home gym. Now, imagine placing that same $15,000 into low-cost index funds instead. Given enough time, roughly 15 years, that investment could reasonably become $50,000 or more, depending on market performance. Suddenly, the purchase looks completely different. You didn't simply buy gym equipment, you traded away part of your future wealth. Every purchase works exactly the same way. Buying one thing always means choosing not to own something else. Usually that something else is financial freedom. And once you begin seeing purchases through that lens, shopping starts feeling very different. Because the real question is no longer, can I afford this? It's, what will this actually cost me over the next decade? That single shift explains why some people steadily become wealthier while others, despite earning impressive salaries, feel permanently stuck. Minimalists understand something most consumers never calculate. The cheapest purchase isn't always the one with the lowest price. It's the one that delivers the greatest value throughout its entire life. Imagine two jackets. The first costs $200. You wear it twice. Each time you put it on, it effectively costs you $100. The second costs $400. At first glance, it looks like the most expensive choice. But imagine wearing it 200 times over the next several years. Now, every use costs just $2. The expensive jacket wasn't expensive at all. The cheap jacket was. The same logic completely changes how you evaluate almost everything you buy. A $300 kitchen gadget that gets used twice during its first year effectively costs $150 every use. Meanwhile, a simple $30 tool used every week costs well under 60 cents per use across the same period. Some purchases become even more remarkable when viewed this way. A $2,000 mattress used every night for 10 years works out to roughly 55 cents per night. Very few investments improve your health, energy, and productivity that cheaply. The same principle applies to a $1,500 espresso machine. Used every day for 5 years, it costs less than $1 per use, while potentially replacing thousands of dollars spent at coffee shops. This is why calculating cost per use is so powerful. It ignores clear advertising. It ignores threads. It ignores social pressure. Instead, it asks a brutally simple question. Will this continue creating value long after the excitement of buying it disappears? Most impulse purchases failed that test immediately. But there's an even more revealing question, one that exposes why our homes slowly fill with things we never truly wanted in the first place. And once you start asking it, it's almost impossible to look at your possessions the same way again. That question is deceptively simple. If this disappeared today, would I actually buy another one? Not because you already paid for it, not because you're throwing it away would feel wasteful, not because someone else expects you to keep it. If it vanished tonight, would you genuinely spend your own money replacing it tomorrow? Walk through your home and ask yourself honestly, the bread maker that's been sitting untouched for years, the fondue scent that came out once at Christmas, the clothes hanging in the back of your wardrobe that haven't been worn in 18 months, the hobby equipment from a phase of your life that quietly ended. For many of these possessions, the answer isn't yes. It's probably not. And that's a powerful realization, because if you wouldn't buy it today, why are you still paying to own it? Every unnecessary possession continues demanding something. Space, time, cleaning, organization, attention. Minimalists understand that decluttering isn't about throwing things away. It's about removing ongoing costs that no longer provide ongoing value. The reward isn't simply a cleaner house. It's fewer decisions, less maintenance, less stress. You spend less time managing your possessions and more time living your life. And once that begins happening, another expensive habit becomes impossible to ignore. One that quietly drains thousands of dollars from people who believe they're making sensible financial decisions. Upgrading. Nothing is wrong with your phone. It still makes calls. It still sends messages. It still runs every app you need. But suddenly, a new model appears. The camera is slightly better. The screen is slightly brighter. The battery lasts a little longer. Nothing meaningful changed, except your perception. The same thing happens with televisions, cars, furniture, kitchen appliances, even clothing. Companies rarely need your current possessions to fail. They only need them to feel old. Minimalists refuse to play that game. Their definition of finished isn't when something stops feeling exciting, it's when it genuinely stops performing the job it was brought to do. The difference is worth a fortune. The average American replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, even though the previous one often works perfectly. Across roughly 30 years, that pattern alone can cost somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000. Now, repeat the same behavior with televisions, computers, cars, furniture, home decor, appliances. It's easy to see how unnecessary upgrades can quietly consume well over $200,000 during a lifetime. Money disappears, life barely improves. Minimalists aren't against buying quality. They're against buying the same satisfaction twice. Of course, avoiding unnecessary purchases sounds easy until you're scrolling online late at night, until the sale ends in 3 hours, until the advertisement insists you'll regret missing out. That's why successful savers don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Human behavior almost always follows the path requiring the least effort. If spending takes 10 seconds while saving takes 10 minutes, spending usually wins. Minimalists simply reverse the equation. They remove saved credit card details from shopping websites. They delete shopping apps. They unsubscribe for promotional emails. Most importantly, they introduce one simple rule. Wait 24 hours before buying anything non-essential. That pause changes everything. Because urgency is where impulse purchases thrive. Give yourself a day, and roughly 70% of those purchases lose their appeal. The excitement disappears, the emotional impulse fades. At the same time, saving should require almost no effort at all. Investments happen automatically on payday. Money moves before it can be spent. Saving becomes the default rather than the exception. Good systems beat good intentions every time. Here's another exercise almost nobody does. Count what you own. Not everything. Start with one category. Shirts, shoes, books, kitchen gadgets. Most people underestimate by an astonishing amount. They think they own 20 shirts. The real number is 47, or 60, or more. Suddenly buying another shirt doesn't feel like buying a shirt. It feels like increasing your collection from 47 to 48. That tiny change in perspective creates friction. Many minimalists go even further. Some limit themselves to around 30 items of clothing. Others keep no more than 50 books at only one time. Some follow a strict one in, one out rule. Nothing new enters unless something else leaves. These limits aren't punishments. They're protection against lifestyle creep. Because without intentional boundaries, possessions naturally expand until every shelf, cupboard, and spare room is full. That same idea appeals to hobbies. Think about how many garages contain expensive reminders of temporary enthusiasm. Camping gear, photography equipment, musical instruments, exercise machines, woodworking tools. At one point, every purchase felt completely justified. This is my new hobby. This time I'll stick with it. Sometimes people do. Often they don't. Minimalists don't assume interest automatically becomes commitment. They test it first. Rent the kayak, borrow the camping equipment, use a makerspace before buying expensive tools. If the hobby survives after the excitement fades, then buying makes sense. If it doesn't, you've saved yourself thousands of dollars and years of storing something you'll rarely touch again. Perhaps the biggest financial trap of all is something people rarely notice while it's happening. Every major purchase creates smaller purchases around it. Buy a boat, and you don't just buy a boat, you buy insurance, registration, storage, maintenance, safety equipment, fuel, cleaning appliances. Buy a home gym, and suddenly you need flooring, mirrors, storage racks, and extra equipment. The original purchase quietly multiplies. A $5,000 decision becomes an $8,000 or even $12,000 commitment once every supporting expense is included. Minimalists calculate the ecosystem, not just the purchase price. Sometimes the smartest financial decision isn't finding a cheaper version, it's deciding not to own it at all. Eventually, this way of thinking leads to one question that almost nobody asks early enough. Someone earning $300,000 can feel just as financially trapped as someone earning $80,000 because every increase in income immediately becomes an increase in spending. Minimalists choose differently. Imagine earning $150,000 while living comfortably on $60,000. That leaves $90,000 every year to build investments instead of expenses. Over time, the differences become life-changing, which brings us back to those two apartments. The person earning $95,000 wasn't poor. They were trapped. Their possessions demanded every dollar they earned. The person earning $72,000 wasn't living a smarter life. They were living a freer one. With 18 months of expenses saved and 20% of every paycheck invested, they had something far more valuable than expensive furniture or the latest gadgets. They had options. They could survive setbacks, walk away from unhealthy situations, sleep peacefully, make decisions based on what they wanted, not what their bills demanded. That's what real wealth looks like. Not accumulation, optionality. The freedom to choose your future instead of having it chosen for you. So the next time you're about to buy something, don't ask the question most people ask. Don't ask, can I afford this? Ask the question that quietly separates people who build wealth from those who constantly chase it. Is this worth the freedom I'm giving up to own it? Because the answer to that single question will shape your financial future far more better than income ever will.